So now we're going to Gan Sao. Gan Sao is one of the 5 vowels of the Wing Chun system, the A, E, I, O, U. In the English language, the Tan, Bong, Pan, Jum and Gang Sao within the Wing Chun language, the physical language. Gan Sao is the lower arm cut. Gan Sao gets its name more a description of energy than it does from the point of view of the shape or the structure. Gan can be equated to if you had a machete and you were trying to cut down bamboo, thin bamboo. Bamboo is very fibrous. If you bend it, it splinters rather than snaps. If you had a machete and you tried to cut it across, bamboo or sugarcane for that matter, your knife will just bounce off. What you need to do is you need to cut, diagonally push, diagonally pull, whichever, so it slices through the fibres, and that action is what I know as Gan Sao, that slicing, pulling, cutting action. So, single Gan Sao can be here, combined with a punch, and Chun Gang Sao, the double Gan Sao, can be cutting forward this way. So the shapes don't necessarily relate to each other, but the energy does. Gan Sao covers the lower quarter, the lower third of the body, the lower quadrant I was going to say. So, Gan Sao's about here. Now, don't have the arm too bent. Okay? And the reason why the arm doesn't want to be too bent is that if force is applied this way and it's coming up, first of all, you've got that distance between your body rather than a greater distance between your body. Also, here you are relying upon a lot of muscle structure to stop something that could be extremely aggressive. It could be a kick, it could be an uppercut, it could be a bottle slicing or knife slicing in. It could be something you've really got to keep out and you're using your muscle groups alone. Now, we know that it works because it works with Bong Sao, it works with Tan Sao, it works with Jum Sao. We know that we can control the muscle length here. But with Gan Sao, it's better to have your arms slightly straighter. Not locked out, because you don't want to be locking out joints, but slightly straighter. So, in effect, if you were not turning and not applying, but you were in the classroom, there's your centre line. So the wrist is around the centre line. This arm is perpendicular body, and then there's a slight angle across here. So there's a slight angle, not locked, certainly not bent, but here. So what we're relying on is the force being applied here and transmitted up the skeleton through into the shoulder group, which basically means the deltoids and all the muscle groups around here, the pecs and the lats and all of that supports the structure. If you have your arm bent, there's too much leverage. It might work against a partner and it might work in a classroom, but that's not what we're training for. We're training for, against potentially extreme violence and aggression, and that needs to be more powerful. Learning to chop something is not going to work. Gan Sao should cover against anything penetrative, lunging or driving, or equally hooking. If it's penetrative, yeah, if your arm's bent, that's not a problem. But if the force is coming this way, you want to redirect the force away from the body, up and past you. Yes, we're going to use it with turning. Yes, we're going to use it with a punch at the same time, but you need that structure to deflect. The distance here, same. If I move behind here. Fist distance, head of tricep, fist and a thumb to the elbow structure here. Don't put it too far forward, although it can go a little bit further forward, depending on the type of technique. You might have to go forward to meet something, but you certainly don't want it too close because momentum would carry you through. So it's about there. We deliberately turn the palm. The palm effectively faces the inner thigh. And the reason for that is that we're using this outside edge of the bone. If your hand is facing the floor, and I've seen that happen, then if it's a linear force and a driven force, it will still work because it's using the outside edge of the bone. But if it's something coming in from here and somebody comes flying underneath this way, there's a really good chance that you get hit on this inside edge of the forearm. And if you consider the cross-section of a forearm, you've got two bones running down like two cricket stumps facing you. Across the top here, you've got muscle groups that are nicely protective. But on the inside here, you've got tendons and guides and veins and all the rest of it, which are extremely vulnerable. And having been sliced with a knife here once, I can tell you it's not a pretty thing to happen. You start losing the use of your digits a little bit, and never mind blood spurting out, and it ruins your afternoon. So turning the palm this way means not only will any linear force be deflected away, but any uppercut force here or anything coming in is more likely to smash them on the inside of the forearm using the edge of your arm than it is you going to get cut. So you're just turning away from the potential threat of violence and damage, the most vulnerable part of your arm, which is this tube running down here. So just by turning the palm, facing the thigh, it means whether it's uppercutting, linear force, driving around, whatever it may happen to be, you're turning away the protective part, the most vulnerable part of the body, and you're protecting yourself with the bone and the muscle groups on here. Gang Sao itself, what you also want to do is just turn the wrist just a little bit, because what you don't want is the fingers down and somebody come up and splay the fingers and embed them into your forearm. At the same time, same rules apply, thumb space away, give structure to the tendons and the guys here, give structure to the wrist, and gives a support mechanism. So there's a slight bend here, a nice straight there, and that's how Gang Sao as a structure will work. It's always used in combination with a punch, even if I can't say it. So from here, as you turn and deflect. The key in turning, okay, is to make sure that you don't push the Gang Sao outwards. So if Alan turns and faces me just a little bit more to there, when you turn with the Gang Sao, the key is to stop the Gang Sao in front, as far as I'm concerned, in front of the thigh. Pushing the Gang Sao out here, well, it will push something out that means that the arm is more likely to come swinging back. And more importantly, you're protecting fresh air. As far as I look at Alan here, as his width here, whether I'm going circular, whether I'm going straight, whether I'm lunging down, whether I'm hooking, whatever it is, hitting him here doesn't hurt. It's only hitting within the width of his body he's concerned about. So pushing an arm out here, not only does it block fresh air and protect fresh air, but it also, if he overcommits it too early, leaves him with a sense of vulnerability. So the Gang Sao wants to cut forward. What you'll find is when he turns, it's still on his personal centre line, but he's angled his body. His punch will almost therefore be one above the other. So if you can turn and face me again. So when that low punch comes in, to here, Gang Sao cuts back. So Gang Sao goes forward, but at the same time, because I'm turning, it's got a cutting back action. So what I'm doing is it's coming in towards the hip, and I'm turning the hip away from the problem, because that could contain a glass or a knife or whatever. And I'm also driving forward, so it's got forwarding energy, okay, but it's also deflecting at the same time. And I've got another hand to work. If he takes his hand out of the way, that's the structure. So it's on my personal centre line, it's got my fist distance, it's got a slight bend, etc., etc. The benefit of this structure is, for this now to become a punch, it's a very simple set of body mechanics. Gang Sao, punch. Gang Sao, punch. I'm turning it out, there's a rotation that's got to take place, which puts an awkward twist on the muscles. It tightens them in the wrong way. It's a very convoluted set of body mechanics that's unnecessary and adds no level of benefit to it at all. So when that punch comes in here, there's a very simple one. As that next low one comes in, boom, there it goes. As it comes in again, there it goes. Very simple. Watch the Gang Sao hand, straight at the centre line. Straight up down. Straight at the centre line, straight down. I do the other Gang Sao at the same time. And we just stop there one more time and take the hand out of the way. So there's a slight bend. This is on my personal centre line. This is off. It's not locked out. Okay. If you uppercut it, it comes forward. If you straight punch it, it comes forward. You could even defend against a kick coming into this area. However, bones and the muscle structure in the legs are much greater than the equivalent in the arms. So what you would have to do is you have to deal with the problem with footwork rather than just standing there and blindly blocking, because you're going to lose. But you could cover meaning use your footwork effectively and efficiently. So Gang Sao cuts forward. It cuts diagonally down from the centre line outwards. Always cover the centre line first and then cut. Don't ever come straight forward, because people aren't aiming to punch you in the hips, they're not aiming to punch you in the ribs, they're most likely aiming into the centre. If they're hitting you in the ribs, it's because they're coming around through the ribs into the centre. Very few people are going to punch your ribs going that way. Most people are going to come driving into the centre of the body. So it's going to cut forward and it's going to cut down. So in Sun Im Tao from here, Gang Sao would just slightly cut the centre line and cut diagonally down and forward. I see some very, very pivotal stuff. And what happens with this, if you're not careful, you end up pivoting at the elbow. But pivoting has no elbow structure and it's got no elbow power. It's like doing Fak Sao this way. You do Fak Sao this way, it's so easy to see from the side because it's just a pivotal force. You see it a week early, it's easy to stop, easy to block, and it's got the same amount of power as a James Bond chop. looks great on film and lacks anything in reality. Gang Sao would be the same. If it's pivotal, it's not really using your structure. All your triceps want to do is shorten to extend your arm. Pivotal work really has not got that same level of force. It might block that way, but it's not stopping something's coming from that direction. So Gang Sao cuts forward. Cuts, cuts. And that's all it needs to do. When I turn, it's still on my personal centre line, but what it hasn't done is gone outside the line of my hip. I'm not trying to protect fresh air, I'm going to go forward. And forward, and forward, and forward. And from here, you can see that line. Gan, Chit Kuen, Gan, Chit Kuen. Straight away, directly cut up the centre line. So you control your centre line, linear force, use the muscle groups, use the skeleton, as much efficiency, maximum body leverage as you can, and that's how Gan Sao.